All right.
Okay, so we're going to co-lead the session, and you've already met Chris because he talked already. I'm Daphne LaDue. I've run a research experiences for undergrads program in Norman, Oklahoma with weather and climate since 2001. We've had our program a bit longer than that, but that's the year I started as the director in PI, and I'm on my 4th grant now.
And is this loud enough? Is it? Okay. Chris Atchison. I'm at the University of Cincinnati. And I'm actually split between the Department of Geology and the School of Education, so really kind of a geoscience education professor without a geoscience education program. And then on top of that, I do a lot of the inclusion teaching for our pre-service middle school and secondary education majors.
Okay, so let's get started. We've got 3 topics. We'll spend about 15-ish minutes on each one. And the first one's inclusion, and Chris is leading.
Okay, so designing an inclusive REU and recruiting applicants. So the one thing that I want you to do as a group, and this is why you're kind of sitting in tables, and if you're sitting at a table by yourself, find some friends.
And can someone volunteer to take the 3rd mic, because they will record this, and you could help us run the mic to whoever wants to talk.
Right, so
I'll
we're
be over here.
We're triangulating ourselves so that we can hand the mics over. But this is what I want you to do as a table. I want you to think about, almost like a Thinkpairshare kind of thing here, educational speak. I want you to think about a situation where you felt vulnerable, where you did not feel included in something, okay? And then take it a step farther. Maybe it's the same situation, but I want you to think about your undergraduate or your graduate program in a situation that you did not feel included in something, right? I want you to, when you were an undergrad, okay? Some of us have to think back a little farther than others. I saw your eyes, you're like, so think back when you felt vulnerable, where you felt biased against, where you felt stereotyped, where you did not feel included in something, okay? I want you to share that with your table, okay? And then we'll come back, and then I want you to share out, not necessarily what that was, but I want you to share out why you think that was, okay? So, yeah.
And we don't have to be too picky here, but
right.
Looking back for some negative feelings that we could use to relate to what our students might experience.
Okay. Talks amongst yourselves, please. Okay, I'm going to ask you guys to kind of synthesize your table, synthesize the ideas. And I'm also going to ask if one of you would be willing to open up a Word document or a Google document and just kind of record what the different tables are saying. Would somebody be willing to do that? Those of you with your computers open? I'm looking at you. Ann, thank you. Thank you. Ann's got it. Ann's going to take notes on the group. So, all right. So, would one table like to report out on common themes? What did you hear from your tables? What types of things occurred that made someone feel non-included, made them feel vulnerable, anything like that? You don't have to be specific, just some common themes. Who would like to start? There you go.
We have a very strong female side here, and evidently all 3 of us have had pretty major biases against either being Hispanic and female, or being a female engineer, or just being a female with a male advisor who wouldn't take me in the field. So does that summarize? So tell me your name. Lynn was in a engineering department with all men, and only young woman, very young, I think, was in a department where there were 2 secretaries and a bunch of men, and so she never got invited out to lunch, and it was really, really difficult to figure out how to acclimatize and break into the male world.
Yeah, good. Is there anything else that came out of your table? Cultural differences? Good.
With food in particular, so being a vegetarian and a vegan.
Oh,
and
nice. Okay.
Not having people understand that actually
Yeah.
there are people who don't eat meat.
Because, yeah, geologists only eat meat, right? Everybody eats meat. Okay, good, thank you, thank you. Another table. Come on, we're going to hear from you all.
Similarly, non-traditional students being not included. Can you, no, oh, okay, sorry, I've talked. Age discrimination, not being, as a non-traditional student, if you're older than your peers. Sex, gender issue, again, like has already been discussed. And then field culture, being a woman in an engineering department, and not being able to break into sort of the old boy system if it's all old boys. And then one person who felt that he has it pretty good.
I did want to make that point a little bit. Being an Asian kid in America, younger, of course I faced discrimination and racial slurs and things like that. But professionally, I have been part of that model minority. So I've been included in everything. And every opportunity I've wanted has been given to me. And so I'm keenly aware of that. And in that sense, I am here. This is very useful to me because I need to understand. You know, running an REU program or just being a good colleague or a good professor, what am I doing accidentally or purposefully that's being exclusive because I am the included one?
Good, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Ours was kind of three separate things. I'll just summarize them quickly. One was actually linked to the vegetarianism and sort of not finding like-minded people within the university, and she moved on to a different university, which probably seems like the best choice there. For myself, and possibly also Trey, I went to a very large university for both undergrad and graduate school, and sometimes it was hard to find that sort of community. For graduate school, my lab was on one campus, my coursework and seminars were on another, and my advisor was on another campus, so it was difficult to sort of find those peers to work with and see all the time when some of them were working with each other all the time, you know, kind of break into those circles. So I think larger universities probably have that issue. And also, if you are struggling with your academics, if your grades are going down, I think it's easier to get lost in those larger universities before someone notices, kind of pulls you back up. So.
Okay, thank you. Last group.
So we also talked about sexism a little bit. We talked about body typing, so being discriminated against based on body type, which kind of goes along with that, but it's different. We also talked about, a little bit similar to you all, the idea of being at an institution where maybe everyone's focused on one particular topic and you're doing something that's within that maybe a little bit different. And so it's a little difficult to find a community of people to work with. And then also we talked a little bit about cultural differences, like coming from another country, and especially if something happens, something traumatic were to happen in your life, you know, just finding a community of people that you can talk to and relate to about it. It's very easy to feel isolated and alone.
Excellent, thank you. And thank you for typing for me. Just to kind of summarize what this is before I turn it over to Daphne, you know, designing an inclusive REU, everything that we've talked about here and so many more are issues that our students come in facing every day. They're barriers that they're trying to work hard to overcome. So when you're designing something, even in the application process and the promotion process, having these things in mind, that it's not just about creating an opportunity and all the students are going to come running. Your students are coming with, and for lack of a better way of putting it, they're coming with a lot of baggage. And they're coming with a lot of social barriers that they're trying to overcome, that when you are designing this, keeping that in mind. I had a really good conversation with Mary Ann, who spoke just before this, this morning over breakfast, about how we're recruiting And then once we get students in, how are we supporting them? How are we taking care of them once they're in our programs? Because, and I'm not going to give too much because the third point here is where I'm going to really talk about it, but how are we creating a community that is inclusive? You're bringing, when you start talking diversity, you bring in students with all kinds of different backgrounds and experiences that probably grew up without experiencing somebody different than them, right? So when we get to the third point, I'm going to talk about more on that, but I want to turn it over to Daphne here.